The silent moon floated in the dark like a forgotten stone, cold, empty, and hiding something no human had touched in centuries. Commander Rian stepped out of the ship first. His boots sank slightly into the gray dust. The air was thin, the wind dry, and the sky had a strange blue glow, like something was watching from above. Behind him, the rest of the team followed. 4 humans, all trained explorers, all ready for danger, but none ready for what waited inside this lonely world. A soft beep echoed from Rian's wrist device. The message was playing again. A slow, trembling voice, not human, not like anything known. My big body can do more than you believe. Someone must free me. The sound drifted through the silent air, full of sadness, full of fear. Rian paused. His team stood still. Even the wind seemed to stop. Dr. Lena, the communication expert, whispered, "It's crying. The voice is crying." Rian nodded slowly, but he could not understand how such a massive signal could come from something that sounded so weak, so desperate. They walked closer to the abandoned alien facility. The structure was huge, built with black metal and glowing cracks. It looked half dead, half alive, like a giant creature frozen in sleep. As they approached the entrance, Rian looked toward the camera of his suit, addressing the viewers of their exploration log. If you enjoy strange mysteries like this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what we find next. He said it gently, almost as if he didn't want the moon to hear him. The team moved in. Inside, everything was silent. Too silent. Lights flickered slowly, like old memories trying to wake up. The walls were covered in alien symbols, sharp lines and circles that looked like warnings. Some symbols glowed red. Some pulsed like beating hearts. Tom, the youngest member, touched one of the symbols. Instantly the wall vibrated. A low, deep, rumbling sound traveled through the floor. Like something big, very big, breathed from below. Tom stepped back quickly. "I didn't mean to." "Quiet," Rian whispered. They listened. The rumbling continued, slow, heavy, like a sleeping giant turning in its dreams. Dr. Lena checked her scanner. There are no life signs nearby. But something is moving. Something massive. They walked deeper, their footsteps echoing softly. The corridor stretched long and dark, broken only by pale blue lights that shook with every tremor. Suddenly, boom, a deep shockwave rolled through the floor. Dust fell from the ceiling. The team froze. "Commander," Lena whispered. The voice message just got stronger. Like it feels we are close." Rian swallowed hard. "Keep going." The air grew warmer. The walls glowed brighter. Every step felt like walking closer to a heartbeat. At the end of the corridor, they reached a giant circular door, at least 20 meters tall. Thick metal plates, deep cuts, scorch marks, and old alien locks covered it. Something had tried to break out, or something outside had tried to force its way in. Rian touched the control panel. It activated with a sudden spark. A whisper filled the room, no longer from the device, but from behind the door. "My body is big, but I am not your enemy. Please, someone must free me." The voice was closer now, so close it felt like it was right next to their ears. Lena stepped back, trembling. That is not a normal creature. This feels intelligent. Emotional." Rian stayed at the door. "It wants help, but why is it locked behind this?" Tom shined his light upward. Carved into the door were ancient alien words. Lena scanned them and translated slowly, her voice shaking. "Do not open. Do not trust. Do not release." Silence. A long, heavy silence. Tom whispered, "If they locked it, maybe it's dangerous." Lena shook her head. "Then why does it sound so scared? Creatures meant for war don't beg like that." Another tremor rolled through the floor. The lights flickered violently. The voice returned, louder, clearer. "I cannot hold much longer. The chains hurt. Please, I will not harm you. I only want to see the sky again." Rian felt a chill in his chest. There was pain in the voice. Real pain. He took a slow step forward and placed his hand on the giant door. The metal pulsed beneath his palm. Like something alive. like something inside was leaning against the other side. "Who are you?" Rianne whispered. The answer came softly, almost like a sigh. "I am what they feared. I am what they tried to break. But I am not what they believed." A sudden alarm burst through the facility. Sharp, loud, ancient. Red lights flashed. The floor shook harder than before. Something was waking up. Not just the voice behind the door. Something else. Something deeper inside the moon. Rianne looked around sharply. "Everyone, stay close. Something's happening." The walls lit up with fast-moving symbols. The alarms grew louder. Pipes cracked above them. The voice whispered again, shaking, desperate, almost crying. "You must not run. If you leave me here, the real monster will break free." The team stayed at one another. Real monster? If she wasn't a threat, then what was? The tremors became violent. The ground split slightly. Hot steam burst from underground vents. The moon was waking up. The facility was waking up. Something huge, something ancient, wanted to leave its cage. And the team was standing right in the middle of it. Rianne looked at the giant door one last time. And for the first time, he wondered if freeing the giant voice might be their only chance to survive what was coming next. The alarm screamed through the ancient hallways. Red lights washed over the team like waves of blood. Commander Rianne raised his hand, signaling everyone to stay close. But even he felt his heartbeat racing faster than the alarms. The giant door groaned, not opening, but reacting. Metal shook. Symbols glowed brighter. Energy crackled around the edges like blue lightning trying to escape. Behind the door, that trembling voice returned. Low, afraid, too afraid for something so big. "You came so far. Please don't leave. I feel the other one waking. It should not wake." Rianne stepped back. "The other one? Who is waking?" he asked. His voice sounded small in the giant chamber. The reply came after a painful, shaking pause. "The one they made after me. Stronger than me, hungrier than me, and loyal to no one." Lena gasped softly. "You're saying there's another creature in here? Something worse?" A sudden sound answered her question. Scrappy, metal tearing, deep inside the facility, like claws dragging along steel walls. The whole moon vibrated. Tom stepped back with trembling hands. That didn't come from behind this door. That came from the tunnels below us." Rianne swallowed hard. "So there are two giants here." The voice behind the door whispered sharply. "Not two. One prisoner. One hunter." The lights went out. Everything went black. A deep silence fell. No alarms, no wind, no sound. Then, a faint glow lit up the far end of the room. A screen flickered to life on the wall. Old alien footage played, unstable and shaking. A group of ancient alien scientists ran through a corridor, screaming. The camera swung wildly, catching the shadow of something tall, too tall, moving fast behind them. Then static. Another clip flashed. This time, the giant woman's silhouette appeared. Chained, glowing, peaceful, refusing to attack the aliens around her. Another clip. A second giant creature, thin and twisted, with long claws and no eyes, roaring uncontrollably. Another clip. The two giants fighting, one defending, one destroying everything around it. The final clip. The peaceful giant locked inside this chamber. The monster sealed underground. The video ended with alien text. "Only she can stop it. But she must never be free." The screen turned black. Tom whispered, voice cracking. "What kind of logic is that? She's the only one who can stop it. But she's trapped? Why?" Lena stayed at the dark corridor behind them. Maybe they feared her too, even as she protected them. A low, echoing growl rolled through the floor. This time, close, very close. Rianne turned his flashlight on. The beam shook in his hand. "Everyone move. Stay tight. We need answers." They moved down the side path, away from the massive sealed door. The corridor was wide, too wide for normal aliens. The walls were scratched. Some marks were huge handprints. Some were claw marks that looked fresh. Steam hissed out of vents. Shadows moved behind pipes. They walked slowly. Every sound felt heavier, closer, alive. Lena checked her scanner again. Her voice trembled. I'm picking up 2 signals now. One behind the door, one ahead of us. Rianne frowned. How big is the second one? The scanner beeped twice. Warning tone. Lena's face went pale. Commander, it's moving toward us. Before anyone could speak, the corridor lights flickered violently. They turned white, then blue, then red. Then, at the far end of the hall, something shifted. Not a shadow, not a trick of light. Something tall, hunched, with long arms dragging across the floor, stepped into view. It moved slowly, like a predator testing its prey. Its skin was dark and stone-like, but its chest glowed faint yellow with burning cracks. It had no eyes, just a long, sharp face like a blade. Tom whispered, "That's the hunter, isn't it?" The creature raised its head and sniffed the air. It could smell them. Rianne whispered, "Do not move." The creature twitched, jerked, twisted its neck with a crack. Then it roared, a horrifying, sharp scream that shook dust from the ceiling. The team turned and ran. The creature's footsteps thundered behind them. Not steady, but fast and broken, like something moving in sudden bursts. Thump, 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 thump. Pipes snapped. Metal beams fell. The team dove into a side hallway just as the creature smashed into the main corridor wall, leaving a massive hole. Lena cried out, "It's trying to cut us off." The rumbling voice from behind the sealed door suddenly echoed into their earpieces. Desperate, urgent. You cannot run from it. It hunts fear. It grows stronger from fear. You need me. Set me free, and I will stop it. Rian breathed hard, trying to think. The giant woman begged for release. The monster hunted them with terrifying speed. They had no weapon strong enough. No safe place to hide. No way out. We should free her. Tom shouted. And what if she attacks us too? Lena snapped. The roar echoed again. Closer. Too close. The giant woman whispered urgently. Trust me, or none of you will leave this moon alive. Another roar. Another crash. Rian looked into the darkness where the monster was approaching. Then he looked back toward the massive sealed door holding the giantess. He had only seconds to choose, and both choices could kill them. The monster's roar rolled through the hall like a living earthquake. Dust showered from the ceiling, metal groaned, and every instinct in the team screamed for them to run, even though their legs felt frozen. Commander Rian forced himself to breathe. Slow, steady, because he knew the creature listened to fear. Behind them, the giant sealed door pulsed faint blue, reacting to the rising danger. The voice of the imprisoned giantess spoke again, shaking, desperate, but strangely calm under the terror. You cannot fight it. You cannot escape it. But I can stop it. Let me help you. The creature's footsteps echoed through the main corridor. Fast bursts, then silence, then another burst of violent movement. It was stalking them. Tom looked around wildly. What do we do? What do we do? Rian grabbed his shoulder. Quiet. If you panic, it will hear us. But the creature didn't need sound. Not with the way it moved. Not with the way the walls vibrated when it sniffed for them. Lena whispered with shaking breath. It's using the structure, the vibrations. It can feel us like a heartbeat. Before they could react, a sudden thud hit the wall on their left. A heavy claw punched through the metal like paper. Sparks exploded. A long, dark arm reached blindly into the hallway, searching. The team pressed back against the opposite wall, barely out of reach. The creature's fingers scraped the floor, scraped the wall, scraped the air. Rian held his breath until his lungs burned. After a long moment, the hand withdrew. The monster moved on. Lena's voice was a trembling whisper. If it finds one of us, it will not stop. The lights flickered again. But this time, the flicker wasn't random. It pulsed. 3 slow flashes. 2 fast flashes. 1 long flash. A pattern. The giantess spoke softly. I am sending you a signal. You are close to my control chamber. If you reach it, you can choose. Release me, or release the hunter. Tom stayed in horror. Why would anyone release the hunter? A quiet sigh came from behind the door. Because long ago, The aliens believed the hunter was necessary. They thought it would protect them. They were wrong. A new tremor rattled the floor. The monster howled far away, but the sound was growing louder, faster. Rian clenched his jaw. We move. Now. They crept through a narrow maintenance shaft, metal creaking under their steps. It felt too small, too tight, too suffocating. Behind the metal grid floor, they could hear the hunter moving underneath them. Slow crawling, heavy breath, claws dragging along pipes. Lena covered her mouth to keep from screaming. The creature stopped. Everything went silent. Then, bonk! It slammed its body upward into the shaft floor, sending cracks through the metal. Another slam. Another crack. The creature was trying to break into the shaft. Go! Go! Rian whispered sharply. They ran through the shaft as fast as they could, the metal bending beneath them. Finally, they reached a small circular hatch. Blue alien letters glowed around it. Tom tapped the panel. It's locked. I need time. But they had no time. The hunter slammed upward again, and a piece of the metal floor sparked and broke open, revealing a long, black arm reaching through the hole. The hand grabbed the edge, tearing pieces away. The monster was coming through. Rian and Lena braced themselves against the hatch door while Tom worked on the control panel. Sweat dripped down his face. Hurry, Tom. Lena hissed. I'm trying. The system is old. Another slam. The shaft floor bent dangerously. The creature snarled from below, smelling them, feeling them. The giantess's voice whispered urgently. You must choose. Do you want your fee to live, or your hope to break free? Tom's panel beat green. It's open. They dove through the hatch just as the monster burst through the floor behind them. The door slammed shut automatically, locking with heavy bolts. The hunter screeched angrily on the other side, slamming into the hatch again and again. But for now, they were safe. For now, the chamber they entered was enormous, circular, glowing with blue and gold lines that ran along the walls like veins. At the center stood a large alien console with two controls, one glowing deep red, one glowing soft blue. Red text hovered over one control. Release Hunter, Prime Weapon. Blue text hovered over the other. Release Sentient, Primary Guardian. Tom stared. They locked them both so either one could be used in a war. They made this moon a weapon. Lena whispered. The aliens feared her, but feared the hunter even more. Rian stepped forward. The giantess spoke in a quiet, trembling breath. If you free me, I will fight for you. If you do not, the hunter will kill you. From behind the hatch, the metal dented outward. Claws appeared. Screeching echoed. They were running out of time. Lena stepped toward the blue control. Tom grabbed her arm. What if she lies? What if freeing her breaks the whole moon? What if not freeing her kills us all? She replied. The hatch cracked again. Rian stared at both glowing controls. Red, death. Blue, hope. Or maybe the other way around. He slowly raised his hand. The chamber shook violently as the hunter ripped through another layer. They had seconds left. Rian took a breath and finally slammed his palm down on one of the controls. But which one? The chamber exploded with light. The moon shook. A roar echoed, not from the hunter, but from a deeper power awakening. Something massive was now free. A blinding blue light swallowed the chamber. Bright, warm, powerful. It washed over the team like a silent wave, shaking their bones, rattling the metal around them. Commander Rian shielded his eyes. Tom dropped to his knees. Lena grabbed the railing to keep herself from falling. Something ancient, something massive, was awakening. And behind them, crack! The hatch finally split. Claws pushed through the metal, screeching as they dragged across the surface. The hunter was seconds away. But then, everything stopped. The lights froze. The vibrations went silent. Even the monster's roar stalled in its throat. A soft, echoing hum filled the chamber. Not mechanical, not digital, alive. A voice, calm, deep, and strangely gentle, whispered across the room. Thank you. Blue crystals on the console burst upward, forming glowing paths toward the far wall. The metal wall folded open like petals of a giant flower. Behind it, she stood, the giantess. Her form rose slowly, a towering figure at least 20 meters tall, skin shimmering with a soft silver glow, eyes bright but tired, like someone who had dreamed too long in darkness. Heavy chains fell from her arms and legs, turning into dust before hitting the floor. Tom choked on his breath. She's real. Lena stepped back, trembling. She looks almost human. The giantess knelt down, an enormous shadow covering them. Her voice echoed without a mouth moving, like thoughts sliding into their minds. You freed me, even when fear chased you, even when danger hunted you. Her giant hand hovered in front of them, palm open, gentle as moonlight. I will not hurt you. Before Rian could respond, the hunter's roar exploded through the broken hatch. The monster slammed into the chamber, ripping through the last layer of metal, its claws glowing hot from the effort. It lunged forward, landing on all fours, twisted limbs stretching unnaturally as it sniffed the air. Its eyeless head tilted, and then it screamed. The giantess rose. Her eyes shifted from soft silver to blazing blue. She stepped forward, each footstep shaking the ground like a falling asteroid. But her movements were controlled, steady, protective. The hunter sprinted forward. Fast, violent, pure rage. But she moved faster. The giantess swung her arm, sending a shockwave that split the floor. The hunter dodged, climbing the walls like an insect, claws slicing metal. It leapt, aiming for Rian. The giantess slammed her hand between them, blocking the attack. The force cracked the floor like glass. The hunter shrieked and latched onto her arm, clawing wildly. She winced, but did not fall. Rian shouted, "We need to get clear." Why? Tom yelled, "She's protecting us." Because the whole chamber is collapsing. Lena pointed upward. She was right. Cracks ran across the ceiling. Pipes burst. Energy conduits sparked uncontrollably. The fight between giants was tearing the facility apart. The giantess gripped the hunter with both hands, lifting it, forcing it back. But the creature twisted, slashing her shoulder open. Silver blue energy burst from her wound. The hunter howled, drinking in the energy like it fed on suffering. She staggered. Tom whispered, horrified, It's feeding on her pain." The giantess looked down at the humans. Her expression pained, but steady. Her voice echoed again, soft but fierce. "You must go. Now. This place will not hold." Rian shook his head. "We can't leave you." The giantess smiled faintly despite the monster clawing at her. "I will survive. But you will not, if you stay." The hunter lunged again, this time trying to jump past her toward the humans. The giantess caught it midair, slamming it against the floor so hard the chamber lights flickered out. Darkness swallowed everything for a moment. When the emergency lights flickered back on, Tom gasped. The hunter was no longer a single creature. It was splitting. Two smaller versions peeled from its body, twitching, screeching, dripping molten-like energy. Lena whispered, horrified, "It can multiply." The giantess growled softly. "It grows when it tastes fear, and you humans are afraid." Rian grabbed Lena's hand. "Move. Now." They ran toward a side corridor lit by emergency strips. The giantess shielded the entrance with her body, blocking the hunter clones from reaching them. As they fled, they heard her roar, a deep, thunderous sound that shook the walls. Not from anger, from determination, from protection. But the team didn't get far before another problem appeared. The corridor ahead split into 3 paths. All 3 were collapsing. Explosions echoed everywhere. Steam vents burst violently. Gravity fluctuated, pulling them sideways. The moon was dying. Which way? Tom yelled. Rian scanned quickly. None of these lead back to the ship. Lena pointed toward a dark stairwell. That goes deeper. Maybe there's another exit. Rian hesitated, because deeper meant closer to ancient secrets, closer to danger, and closer to whatever the aliens never intended anyone to find. Behind them, a violent scream echoed. The hunter clones were crawling through cracks in the walls, small but fast. Too fast. Rian grabbed Lena and Tom. Down the stairwell. Go! They rushed down the tight, spiraling steps. The ground shaking. Dust raining. The sound of giant battle echoing above them like the sky collapsing. The staircase opened into a massive underground chamber. A chamber filled with thousands of alien pods. Huge. Silent. All glowing faint red. Tom froze. Oh no, don't tell me these are. Lena finished the sentence in a whisper. More hunters. Behind them, something crawled into the stairwell. A clone. Small, fast, hungry. Its claws glowed bright orange. And above them, the giantess roared again. This time in pain. Rian turned back and whispered to himself. We freed her. But what if the aliens locked her up? Because freeing her means waking all of this too. The chamber lights slowly brightened. One pod twitched. Then another. Then a third. Something inside them was waking. And they were trapped in the center of it all. The chamber felt impossibly large. Too large for any normal species to build. The ceiling vanished into darkness, supported by stone-like pillars carved with alien symbols that pulsed slowly, as if they were breathing. But none of that terrified the team as much as what stood before them. Thousands of pods. Soft red glow. Silent shadows curled inside each one. Waiting. Sleeping. Almost waking. Tom whispered, voice barely air. Commander, we need to leave. Now. This is a nest. Lena grabbed his arm, eyes wide with terror. Not just a nest, a whole army. A full species ready to hatch. Rian stared at the rows and rows of pods disappearing into the horizon of the chamber. The truth hit him like a cold knife. The aliens didn't build this moon as a prison. He looked around slowly. They built it as a battlefield. Before anyone could answer, something moved inside the nearest pod. A thin, sharp claw scratched the inner glass. Then another. Slow, rhythmic, like a creature testing the walls of its egg. Tom stumbled back. Oh no. Tell me that one isn't hatching. Crock. A thin fracture cut across the pod window. Tom froze. Lena grabbed his sleeve. Don't make a sound. But silence was impossible now. Above them, the ground trembled violently. A giant fist smashing into metal. The giantess fighting for her life. Her roar shook dust from the ceiling. The hunter roared back. The shockwave rippled through the chamber, and the glowing pods reacted. Thousands of red lights brightened at once. Rian's heart dropped. They are waking up from the battle vibrations. Lena stared upward, terror sinking into her bones. She can't stop all of them. Even she can't win this alone. A sudden screech echoed from behind them. The small hunter clone that followed them finally crawled fully into the chamber, its eyeless head turning sharply, its long, split tongue flicking the air. It sprinted toward them. Fast. Too fast. Rian shoved the others. Spread out. The team darted between towering pods, using them as cover. The clone leapt onto the nearest pod, claws digging deep as it scanned for movement. But its attack awakened something else. A faint heartbeat thumped inside the pod it stood on. Then another. Then dozens. Lena gasped, gripping the corner of a pod. Commander, these creatures, if they hatch, the galaxy won't survive. Rian exhaled sharply. Then we stopped them from hatching. Tom stared at him like he'd lost his mind. There are thousands. How? How do we stop? A deep voice answered. Not human. Not nay, but echoing through the entire moon. I am coming. The giantess. Her voice filled the chamber, but it sounded weaker, like she was struggling, fighting, bleeding. A monstrous crash above them made the ground split. Stone rained down. Energy conduits burst in arcs of lightning. The battle between the giantess and the hunter had reached the layer above the chamber, and they were smashing the moon apart. The clone in the chamber shrieked and jumped into the darkness, circling the team like a shadow with claws. Tom ran toward another aisle of pods. I'll try to find an exit. Lena followed, whispering quickly, be careful, if you trip another pod's sensors. But it was already too late. A second pod cracked open. A long, skeletal hand burst through the glass. Dark liquid spilled out. A creature crawled halfway from the pod, shaking, newborn, but already vicious. Its jaw unhinged, letting out a weak but hungry screech. Tom froze. Lena covered her mouth in horror. Rian raised his pulse rifle, even though he knew it would barely hurt the thing. Back! All of you, back! But the newborn creature seemed confused. It sniffed the air, its claws twitched, its eyeless head tilted like it could sense vibrations better than sight. Then, a thunderous crack split the ceiling above them. A giant silver hand punched through the stone, slamming onto the floor beside the newborn creature. Dust exploded everywhere. The newborn screeched in fear and scrambled backward. Then the giantess's face appeared through the broken ceiling, eyes glowing fiercely, breathing hard, blood like silver energy dripping from her wounds. She spotted the team below her. You must leave this chamber. Now, before all the pods awaken. Rian shouted up to her. How do we stop them? Tell us how. The giantess gripped the edge of the broken ceiling, trying to pull herself down into the chamber. But something yanked her back up with brutal force. The hunter, it dragged her upward, its claws sinking into her shoulders. She screamed, a sound that cracked every pod's surface like thin ice. The hunter roared in victory. Then, from the walls, hundreds of red lights turned bright white. The pods were accelerating. Lena's voice cracked with panic. They are waking faster. The moon is forcing them online. Rian grabbed Tom and Lena by their suits. Run! Run deeper. There must be a control core. But when they turned, the corridor ahead filled with white mist. Cold. Pressurized. Not gas. Cryoseal mist. Meaning, the core was right ahead. Tom's eyes lit up. Commander, that mist only appears near central power systems. Lena nodded. And core systems can override pod activation. Rian pushed them forward. This is our chance. But behind them, the newborn creature screeched again. Louder now. Stronger. And several more pods cracked open in response. The small clone leapt from the shadows, racing after them. Above, the giantess roared again. In fury, in pain, in desperation. The chamber shook violently. The hunter's shadow darkened the ceiling. And far ahead, through the mist, Rian saw a pulsing blue heart-like machine. The main control core. If they could reach it, they could either save the giantess or awaken an entire species of monsters. The choice would decide whether the galaxy had a protector or its doom, and the monsters were closing in. The cryo mist swirled around their legs as they ran. Cold, thick, glowing in the dim blue light like ghostly smoke. Every step echoed through the chamber, too loud, too sharp, and every echo made the pods twitch faster. The newborn creatures behind them screeched, their voices thin and hungry. Claws clicked against the floor. One of them crawled across the ceiling, its limbs bending in impossible angles. Tom glanced over his shoulder. Oh no, they're getting bigger. He was right. The newborns were changing, growing, their skin hardening, bones sharpening like glass, their breathing turning deeper and more violent. Lena grabbed his hand and pulled him faster. They grow with motion. Stop looking back. But how could he not? The pod army was waking, one by one, and the hunter clone was right behind them, crawling, sprinting, leaping between shadows like death with claws. Rian's eyes fixed on the glowing heartbeat of the core chamber ahead. A massive circular machine pulsing with blue energy, alive like a heart trying to stay alive. This is it, he whispered. The center of everything. But as they reached the platform, they stopped dead in their tracks. Because the core was not alone. Floating above it was a hologram of the ancient alien creators. Tall, elegant forms of light, shifting like smoke in data, their voices echoing from all directions. If you have reached this point, you face our final choice. Lena gasped as the holograms circled them. They left a message for whoever makes it this far. Rian stepped forward cautiously. What choice? The holograms responded in tones cold and mathematical. The guardian or the hunters. One may live. One must fall. The room shook as something massive slammed into the ceiling. Dust rained down. The giantess cried out in pain above them. Her voice echoed through every wall. Weaker, but still full of fierce will. Don't choose them. Choose the light. Choose the path that saves your kind. Another roar followed. The hunters, violent and victorious. Tom shouted desperately at the hologram. How do we save her? How do we shut down the pods? The hologram's lights shifted, forming two glowing interfaces. One blue, one blood red. Lena read the symbols aloud. Blue, deactivate all hunter pods and strengthen the Giantess with core energy. And the red? Rian asked. Her voice trembled. Red, activates every pod fully and kills the Giantess instantly. Tom stared at her in horror. Why would such an option even exist? The hologram answered. The Guardian refused to obey. The hunters always obey. Rian clenched his teeth. Obey who? The holograms all turned toward him, their voices lowering in unison. The creators, not you. A cold weight dropped in Rian's stomach. The aliens never trusted the Giantess. Because she thought. Because she felt. Because she refused to be a weapon. The hunters obeyed without question. Mindless. Perfect soldiers. Lena stepped backward. This is why she was chained. Not because she was dangerous, but because she had a soul. The chamber trembled again, this time violently. A massive crack tore through the ceiling. Stone shattered. Light burst in. The Giantess fell through the opening, crashing onto the chamber floor. She lay on her knees, panting hard, bloodlight glowing from deep wounds. Her once bright eyes flickered weakly. And above her, the hunter climbed down through the broken stone. Massive, twisted, powerful, crawling like a demon descending from the stars. It roared, a roar that shook the pods into a frenzy of cracking glass. Rian shouted, "We have to choose now." Tom stepped toward the blue control. "We save her." But something moved fast from the shadows. A hunter clone tackled Tom from the side, knocking him away from the console. "Tom!" Lena screamed. The clone hissed and raised its claws. But the Giantess, bleeding and shaking, slammed her fist into the floor. A pulse of blue light exploded outward, throwing the clone across the chamber. She collapsed afterward, coughing, her body flickering like a failing star. Her voice barely formed. "You must hurry. I cannot protect you for long." Rian grabbed Tom and pulled him up. Everyone together, on the blue control. Lena nodded fiercely. Tom limped beside them. They ran toward the interface. But the hunter dropped in front of it, landing with force so heavy the floor shattered beneath him. Its eyeless head turned slowly. It knew. It understood. It sensed exactly what they were about to do. It stood between them and the only hope they had left. Rian lifted his useless pulse rifle anyway, placing himself in front of his team. Lena whispered, "Commander, this thing will tear you apart." Rian whispered back, "Maybe, but if it kills me before you reach that button, she dies. We die. Everyone dies." Tom shook his head, terrified. "No, you can't." But Rian stepped forward, facing the monster alone. The hunter hissed, raised its claws, and then, the Giantess, barely conscious, whispered her final warning. "Do not fear it. Fear gives it power." But fear was already in their bones. The hunter lunged, and Rian charged straight at it. The air warped as Rian charged. Time stretched thin. The ground seemed to tilt beneath him. The hunter's claws cut through the space where his head had been a half-second earlier. A shockwave exploded around them. The creature's movement was too fast. A blur of claws, teeth, and raw hatred. Rian rolled, barely avoiding a swipe that split the stone floor open like soft soil. Thus choked his lungs. The sound of metal cracking echoed across the chamber. Lena screamed behind him, "Commander, move." But Rian didn't look back. He couldn't afford to. The hunter turned toward him again. Slow, deliberate, cruel, as if savoring the fear in the air. Its long head twitched. Its claws flexed. Its bones cracked as it prepared to pounce. Rian braced himself and saw his death coming in the creature's stance. But before the hunter could jump, a massive hand slammed into its side, sending it skidding across the floor in a burst of sparks. The Giantess, barely standing, barely breathing, but still fighting. She planted one knee on the ground, her entire body shaking. Her chest rose and fell with difficulty, glowing cracks crawling up her arms like broken lightning. Her voice echoed softly, strained, half-broken. Do not face it alone. Humans are brave, but bravery without strength is suicide. Rian staggered back. He looked up at her enormous, trembling form and whispered, "Why are you still protecting us? You're dying." The giantess lowered her head slightly, a sad, gentle gesture. "Because once, I protected your kind before you even existed." But the hunter wasn't down. It rose to its feet, body twisting into a new shape, glowing brighter, feeding on their collective fear. "Evolving," Tom gasped. "It's absorbing our terror. We're making it stronger." The creature lunged again, this time faster, larger, more deadly. It aimed straight for the giantess's throat. She caught it, but barely. Her fingers closed around its neck, their bodies locked in a violent struggle. The floor shattered under their combined weight. Her knees buckled. Her wounds glowed painfully. The hunter pushed against her grip, inch by inch, its claws reaching for her chest. Rian shouted at Lena and Tom, "Now, go for the blue control." The two sprinted toward the console, but a newborn hunter dropped from above, landing right in front of them with a screech that shook the air. Tom tripped and fell backward. The creature crawled toward him with jerky, glitching movements, jaws widening. Before it could strike, Lena kicked a loose metal pipe into its face. The creature shrieked, reeling, black fluid dripping from its cracked jaw. "Tom, run!" They sprinted again. The giantess cried out as the hunter sank its claws deeper into her arm. Silver-blue blood splashed across the chamber like glowing rain. She pushed back with every ounce of her fading power. Her voice trembled. "I cannot hold it much longer." Rian grabbed a broken metal beam, charged toward the newborn, and swung with all his strength. The hit connected. The creature's head snapped sideways, but it was only stunned, not dead. Rian didn't stop. He slammed the beam again, and again, until the newborn collapsed, twitching. He was shaking, sweating, breathing like he'd run through fire. Tom and Lena finally reached the blue control, but the console reacted violently, blue energy flaring outward. A holographic warning appeared above it. "Power diverted. Core structure unstable." Lena shouted, "It needs more energy. It won't activate." Tom yelled, "Where do we get energy? This moon is dying." Rian looked at the giantess. She was the only source of power left strong enough, but she was barely conscious now. Her arms trembled as the hunter forced her backwards. Her knees scraped across the stone. Her eyes dimmed. The hunter roared triumphantly as it pinned her, ready to tear out her throat. Rian ran to her side, dodging falling debris, shouting upward, "We need your power. Give us anything you can." Her head turned slightly, pain etched deep in her glowing eyes. "If I give too much, I will fade. We'll save you." Rian yelled desperately. The hunter raked its claws across her chest. She screamed, the sound ripping through the chamber. The pods reacted instantly, hundreds cracking open in response to the vibration of fear and pain. Lena shouted from the console, "Commander, we're out of time." Rian grabbed onto the giantess's arm, a tiny human hand against a wounded titan. "Please, trust us. Give us the power. Let us save you." For a moment, for one fragile second, she smiled, weak, but full of something warm, almost human. "I trust you." Her body erupted with light. A blast of energy burst from her core, blue and gold, blinding, desperate, pure. The power lashed outward, a beam of radiant energy shooting toward the console. Tom and Lena shielded their eyes as the console absorbed the surge. The pod lights flickered. The clone on the floor writhed. The ground shook violently. The blue interface lit up. "Power accepted. Activation ready." Rian screamed. "Lena, press it." She lifted her trembling hand and slammed it down. But the hunter felt the shift. It sensed it. It reacted. It turned away from the giantess, eyes still sightless, but body locked on the console. It leapt, aiming not for Rian, not for the giantess, but for Lena. Rian cried out, "No!" But the creature was too fast, and Lena was too close. She pressed the blue control. Just as the monster reached her, a deafening explosion of light erupted. The whole chamber turned white. The hunter screamed. The pods shattered. The giantess collapsed. And Lena vanished into the blinding blue light. Rian reached forward with a scream that tore out of his chest. Lena! But she was gone.